Guys, you were so fantastic in that last video about whether or not I should sell my childhood collection of Pokemon cards for a down payment. A lot of you said, yo PDP, get some of those cards slabbed up and graded, and now it's time to take your advice. Whew. So I got all my collection right here in all 6 binders. I'm at a local game store in Ottawa, Ontario called Gamebreakers, and they've been so generous to help me pick out some of the best cards that they think are gonna be slab worthy. So why don't you come and join us? Let's do it. Okay, let's go. Finally made it through the process.
And that, folks, is a
Guys, I love the PDP community. The last video popped off, went micro viral. Super pumped about that. Thank you so much. Today is going to be a continuation of that. So if you haven't seen that video, take a look right here, follow that link. We had a blast. What I'm trying to figure out is, if I sell my Pokemon cards, do I have what it takes to put a down payment on a house in this economy these days? That's the goal. We're going to see. But what you mentioned is, yo PDP, you should get some of those cards slabbed up. All right, get them protected, get them graded. And you know what? I'm actually going to take your advice. So in this video, I have done all the research leading up to it. I have talked to a bunch of professionals, went to the experts. You saw the wonderful people at Gamebreakers gave some time to me just to kind of figure it out and work through it. So I've distilled all that down into top 5 tips to getting your cards graded. All right, first one is card selection. Second one is going to be the risk that goes into it. Number 3 is going to be the companies and the fees that come with them. Number 4 is resale value. And the 5th one is pre-grading. Getting those cards looked at and graded before you actually go into the grading process. All right, guys, let's head on into Gamebreakers. So pumped that they're willing to help us out here, figure out the grading process, get some cards slabbed. But let's take a tour first, all right? These guys are a staple in the community of collecting here in Ottawa. On one side of the store, you have everything your heart could ever want as far as sports cards go. In the back here, we have accessories, binders, protectors, everything you need. We got some Funkos, you know, gotta love them. And then we get to the Pokemon cards, right? So what they have here is the singles. They have sealed. They have cards from all different generations and sets right there for you guys, even some slabs. But what I wasn't prepared for was what I saw here. This is a professional pre-grader who actually works with PSA, and check out his full setup to get a perfect detailed close-up look at these Pokemon cards like that Charizard, but we'll talk more about pre-grading later. And so let's just get into it. They're gonna pop open some binders and we're gonna put some cards aside that they think are worth, you know, getting looked at for the grading process. So let's get into this. Number 1. Card selection. So while I was at Gamebreakers, you can see here that we've gone through all the binders. We're looking through vintage stuff, we're looking through modern stuff, illustration rares, we're looking through promos and everything. And I've learned a lot from those awesome people, the pros there. And some of the takeaways that I can share with you are: look for cards that are unique, like promos, stamped cards, and even some secret rares. Look for cards that are really, really minty and protected and no scratches and so forth. We'll talk about that more later in the video when we start talking about pre-grading your cards. But for now, just think of a clean, minty, pretty looking card. Look for cards that are some of the favorites, right? So the starters in each of them. I'll look for legendaries. Think of, you know, like the original 151 or Pikachu or Bulbasaur or Squirtle, stuff like that. Even think of like Rayquaza, who's one of the killer legendaries, and some of the fan favorites like Umbreon or any of the evolutions as well. Look for really interesting illustrations from really cool artists. And guys, there's so many beautiful illustration cards. Here's just a couple that I love a ton, but by far and hands down my favorite illustrator, at least right now, is that Sushi Furusawa. All right, he's got some bangers such as Arceus, we got Dawn, we have the Suicune V, and my favorite grail of all time is Dragonite. Right, some of these cards that you might sleep on, that you don't like personally, might be something that goes bananas on the market. So keep your eyes out for those types of cards. You gotta know this strat, you gotta make sure you choose the right cards. As you do that, you gotta ask yourself one question: why am I doing this? All right, one of the reasons could be the protection of the card. So that big plastic slab keeps the card safe, it preserves it, and that's awesome. Another reason could be for the aesthetic of it. I don't know, maybe you love to have a slab hanging around your neck on a gold chain walking into WrestleMania. I don't know, maybe that's your game, maybe not. There is somebody who likes to do that, and maybe you can buy that card, I don't know. Anyway, if you know, you know. Another thing could be just the nostalgia of it, right? So having your favorite card, your wonderful card that might not be in the best condition, but you want it slabbed up and protected so you can have it out for your own collection. Nostalgia is a huge thing, and Pokemon is dripping with nostalgia, and so that might be for you. Another thing could just be quality assurance. Knowing that a card that you're buying has a specific level, you know it's been vetted and proven that this card is a specific quality, or if you're selling a card, you know the price point to put it at, so that could be helpful. But the reason, based on your advice, the reason I'm looking into some grading is to be able to have resaleability, all right? To be able to sell my cards again and have a higher profit, because maybe some cards that you have that fetch, I don't know, $50 raw or ungraded could come back at $100 or even 10x, whatever it is, right? So that's what I'm into this. That is card selection. Top tip number 2, risk. The strategy here is trying to figure out before you send a card in, what is the likelihood of the score that's coming back? You're playing a game of risk. It's not necessarily betting, but you want to really bolster your attempt to get that card in. So what you need to do is dive into an app or find information online. I love the Collectr app, and I'll show you that, the mobile version of it. And you need to see, if I get a PSA 9 from a card that I submit, is that actually going to get me more value for my card? Some cards, even if you get them graded, it's not going to promise you that you're going to get more value out of that card. It's not going to be worth more, right? So you have to check that fine line of what's the risk of, if I send this in, is it going to come back more valuable, right? The awesome people at Gamebreakers mentioned a PSA 7 will be a near mint raw card quality. And so anything above that will have a higher price tag, as well as resellability and liquidity, right? Liquidity is just the ability for it to sell, right? Which is what we're looking for in my journey to potentially getting a down payment. So if you can get a PSA 7 or above, then you're in really good shape, and those are the types of cards that you want to send in to get graded. There's plenty of different companies. There's 5 of them. We're going to talk about them, but the PSA 7 is kind of that gold threshold to get into the game and have it be profitable for you, right? All right, so let's get into Collectr here. Here's our dashboard. Popping over to the portfolio. I already have this set up, so if we're going to look at a Tyranitar here, all right, mine is not the first edition, unfortunately, but it is the beautiful Unlimited, all right, and so I've selected that already. So let's go into the population report. What this is going to show you here is in the wild, if you're searching for cards, right, how many of these cards, I highlighted PSA 10, 9, 8, and 7, how many are actually there? How many can you actually find out there? All right, so as of today, it was 772 PSA 10s, all right, and then it just kind of varies, and you can kind of get the specific numbers by toggling over the lines there. So 757, 544, 83, 541, all these numbers here that will give you, okay, this is how many are out there. Depending on that number, if there's a ton of them, right, maybe the scarcity effect or the value of it will not be there as much, right? If there's no PSA 10s and you pull the first PSA 10 ever, then that value is going to be humongous, all right? So this is, again, the population report. So let's pop on over to the graded portion here, and let's see what we've highlighted. Okay, again, we're talking Unlimited, and I've selected PSA. We'll talk about why, because it's a vintage card, why I'm going with PSA, but stay tuned for that. You can see the prices here, right? So let's look down here. Unlimited holo foil is $134.14, right? So when you consider, I don't know, like a let's call it a $40 fee for PSA because of the nature of this car and the insurance and so forth. You'll have a PSA 10. If you pop off and get really lucky and you have a beautiful absolute mint of a card, you're going to pull in 2.3K, right? That value goes from $134 to $2.3 US dollars, 2.3K, right? If you go and get a PSA 9, 225, okay? So you net, I don't know, maybe like 50 bucks, and it gets protected in that slab, very cool. But here's the crazy thing, guys. If you get an 8 on this Tyranitar, it's $130. You actually lose $4 of value, and you have to pay the fees. Anything under that, so the PSA 7 that we've highlighted here, you're just losing money, right? You're flushing it down the toilet, which is rough. You'd probably crack it open from the slab. So all of this has to be evaluated when it comes to assessing the risk of, should I get this card slabbed up? What's the deal here? Not all these cards have these saved numbers, right? So you got to check which cards you think are really minty in your collection that might be worth the risk, and figure that out for yourself, because it's not as straightforward as you might guess. The third top tip for getting cards graded is knowing the companies, knowing the fees that come with it, okay? So different companies, there's a ton of talk right now. PSA, BGS, SGC, all three of those companies are actually owned by a top bigger brass company called Collectrs. You can do a deep dive into that. There's a ton of really interesting citizen journalists, YouTubers that have done a really cool coverage of that. Is it a monopoly? Is it the end of the world? Is price controlling and gouging going to happen? I don't know. I'm keeping my eye on it. I recommend you do as well and consider that when you get your cards graded, but we'll see, right? But the top 5 companies for grading are PSA, BGS, CGC, SGC, and TAG. So you need to do your due diligence, look them up, look at the prices, look at what they promise. What I will say is qualities that affect how expensive your grading process is going to be are the amount of cards that you send in. Is it a bulk order, right? Are you sending 20 to 25 cards in to get graded? That will reduce the price of that card order. Or are you just doing 2 or 3? All right, that will increase the price. Another thing is, what is the value of the cards that you're sending in, right? So if they are super, super minty, really, really rare cards that you're sending in, you're gonna have to choose a specific insurance quality level as you're sending in those cards. If you're PSA, if you're BGS, I think there's others. Some companies like TAG, SGC, even I think CGC as well, whatever you submit, there's not necessarily tiers per se, unless you hit the jackpot of like a BGS pristine black label and so forth. What you pay for as far as quality is what you're going to that's going to be that price the whole time. PSA and BGS will upsell a little bit. So if you get a card that you thought was $700 because that's what the market said, and it comes back as a BGS 10 pristine or a PSA 10, and it 10x's, then you're going to have to pay the difference of the price range to get that card back. Take a look into that. Make sure you read the website, look at the fine print. It can be a little, but I just want you to have a heads up with that, okay? Next thing that you're gonna have to consider is the turnaround time, okay? So if you want it very, very fast, maybe you're flipping cards, maybe you're one of those individuals that has a company and you need to get the newest cards back with a high grade fast so that value stays high, that could be something that you're gonna have to pay extra for. If you're just a collector and you just want the cards nice and protected and looks really good for your collection, you don't care about the time, then you don't have to pay as much money. It's up to you. The 4th characteristic is transparency, right? So why did you get the score you did? There's, for Beckett and some other companies, there's sub-labels, all right? There's sub-scores of, okay, why did you get this score on centering? Why did you get this on corners? And we're gonna talk about those factors as we go through the video. But it shows you more transparent, greater notes, what was going on, what was in the process, why did it get what it got, right? And for some companies like PSA, you're gonna pay for more. Others, it comes baked into the price, and that's an amenity. That's something that could be really helpful for you. It depends on which company you choose, which is why I covered this. So make the right decision, do your research, and figure out what companies you wanna use, because it's gonna affect your wallet. Number 4 is resale value, okay? So depending on the company, like we just talked about, different cards are gonna come back with different resale value. So more value or less. If you have a PSA, we're just gonna get into it. If you have a PSA 10 of any vintage card, that is the gold standard, right? PSA controlled really all the reputation of the collectible scene. When Pokemon came out, they were already doing sports cards and comics, I think even too, at the time. And so they just carry with them a really strong reputation, especially for those cards in the 90s and the 2000s. So if you want to get an older card graded, go with PSA, right? If you have a super high-end card, right? If you have a card that is really, really clean, it's really, really valuable, and it's kind of newer, not necessarily vintage, you got to go with Beckett, right? The pristine black label 10, a Beckett 10 is just incredible. It's almost 2x the value of a PSA 10 for those for that era of cards, high end, right? You got to go with Beckett with that. Behind that, even before PSA 10, is a CGC pristine 10 as well. All right, it is a beautiful card. It is a wonderful label, and it's actually 50% more valuable than a PSA 10. So check into those CGC and Beckett before you get to PSA for perfectly minty, super, super valuable high-end cards when you submit them, right? Everything else, so we didn't talk about SGC, we didn't talk about TAG specifically as far as resale value yet, but with modern cards, with cards that are just coming out, right? The Scarlet Violet just ended Mega Evolutions. Tag is making a good run because of their AI, very clear and concise breakdown of why you got what you got. And so that is catching appeal. So I wouldn't sleep on Tag and other companies that use AI. So keep an eye on them for the next 5-10 years. They might, you know, get a little bit faster, a little bit higher in the rankings when it comes to resale value. But when it comes to any card that's a decent level, a decent quality, going with PSA as of right now in 2026 is going to be your go-to bet. All right, this is going to be your safest bet. They kind of are the gatekeepers when it comes to card value, unless it's super, super high end. So if it's like a little dinged up a little bit, but it's still a great card, it's going to be a little bit more expensive and you're going to have to jump through a lot of hoops, but PSA is probably going to be your best bet unless you really know your stuff and you're going to risk it on some other companies. So that's 4. That is resale value. Number 5, the final strategy, top tip for you guys in grading your cards is pre-grading. All right, so on the video, you see this guy with a big microscope, big electron. You can basically have the Tinder profile of this card right in front of you. You can look at little nanometer, microchip, fingerprint, all the different things. We're not doing that. However, PDP has done his research. He has looked in and he has practiced a lot of what it goes into pre-grading. And I'm going to share that with you today. There are 4 things. I mentioned them just a little bit beforehand. There are 4 characteristics that goes into grading your cards. They are as follows. Centering, okay? How perfectly aligned with all 4 margins your card is. Surfaces, are they scratched? Is there oil covered over them? Is there dents and breaks in them? Is there little dirt and scum, all that kind of stuff on the surface of your cards, both front and back? The third one is corners. Are they sharp? Are they original print? Have they been indented or pressed in? And then finally, edges, all right? Are there whitening? Is there scratching on it that has taken off the color? Is it just dented? Is there any dings on it, on the edges there? All 4 of those things are going to be criteria for you that they base on to get your grade back to you, get your card at a specific level. And obviously we're shooting for the highest possible. So what we're gonna do, I have the cards right here that our amazing people at Gamebreakers said, hey, you should, you know, maybe look into these cards. Take a look at these, maybe do some pre-grading, and maybe even I'll bring it back to our incredible scientist over there with the scanning electron microscope to take a look at them and to see if we have what it takes, you know, to increase some value, maybe some PSA 10s. And I'd be pretty giddy about that. So we're gonna take a look at that. We're gonna do a PDP pre-scan. We're gonna do a pre-grading look. So why don't you join me with that? We're gonna change our view here and let's get into the details. All right, guys, we are ready to roll. I popped my little Tyranitar, beautiful, out of the sleeve here. Make sure you have gloves, right? Any oils on your fingers. Oh, look at that radiance. Any oils on your fingers, although you might think it is perfectly clean if you wash it, make sure that you wear some gloves here to keep it safe, all right? So what we're gonna do here is we're gonna do a little bit of a PDP pre-check, get nice and close on this buttery biscuit. Look at this guy, Godzilla, Gen 2. All right, so just taking a look at this, guys. What do you think? All right, some of you have been in the game, been in the business a little bit longer than me. Comment below what you guys think this would get from just looking at it here. We'll do a quick once over. All right, see a little bit of edges up there. It might not be super pumped, a little bit of corners on there. All right, but when I look at this, all right, corners on the front look tight. They look symmetrical. The centering looks really good, actually, as far as the margins go. Looks like a really centered card. Corners, like I said, are sharp. Surfaces, I have, if you, let's bring this in just a little bit. If you take a look right up here, a little bit of a whitening mark, and bottom left here, maybe a little bit of dirt that could get wiped off. I just don't want to touch it myself. I get that done by the pre-grader, our resident scientist you saw there. As far as surfaces go, let's get some light popping in here. I don't know, there is it's looking okay. There might be some vertical, let's see if I can get it out, some vertical hollow lines, print lines, maybe, I don't know if they're print lines, but just a little bit of scratching, I'd say. Not perfect, right? I don't know, we'll see. All right, yeah, surface otherwise looks pretty good. What about flipping it over? This is where it might be a little bit more transparent. Yeah, the top there, you can see right here, a couple of whitening marks there. Whoa, no shit, that camera. Yeah, corner, a little bit of off dings bottom left, maybe the corner there as well. A little bit of mark down there. I don't know, guys. It's on the bubble, right? So if this is north of a PSA 7, it really makes you think, okay? I would love to hear your thoughts. This is again, I'm just in the game when it comes to this kind of stuff. I'll get this looked at by, pay a little bit just to get this looked by a pro with that big whole video microscope. Oh, I don't know, guys. What do you think about our Reptar going on here with Tyranitar? It's looking pretty good. I just don't know if I have the confidence to be able to, between the corners and so forth. It just makes me, I just want to, oh no. Guys, what if I done? Oh, I'm just kidding. It's some camping gear. I'm messing with y'all. We're good. Sorry if that caused any trauma. But yeah, let me know. What do you think we should do with Tyranitar here? Send them in. Oh no. Guys, what if I done? Oh, I'm just kidding. It's some camping gear. I'm messing with y'all. We're good. Sorry if that caused any trauma. But yeah, let me know. What do you think we should do with Tyranitar here? Send them in or not? So the final step, guys, is we're going to just do a speed run through. You can check on the other screen all the other cards that Gamebreaker was like, yo, you need to get these looked at. They look kind of minty. Make sure that you keep them safe, but maybe we can send them off to get some high potential here. So be on the lookout. If you see any cards that you're like, PDP, you just got to send it in. That's a nice looking card. Drop that in the comments below. I'd also love to know any of the illustrators that you like, any of the cards and the illustrations that bring value to your life. I'd love to know that. The best part of it is the really beautiful card collecting illustrations. All right, so let me know about that, because ultimately what we'll do is we're going to tuck this away into that box. As you can see there, it's bubble wrapped. That card value is preserved, right? And then we'll bring that into the pre-grader for a specific look to hopefully send it off, whether it's PSA or some other card companies. And hopefully we get some big returns back, right? Because ultimately, hopefully, Lord, we get some big winners, right? So maybe some 10s out there from the process, right? Because all of this will go toward, the journey that my family and I are taking of, I don't know, should I sell my cards? Because ultimately we want to put a down payment on a house for our family in the future, right? So if you've been along that journey with us the whole time, thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If it's the first time you're seeing a PvP video, thanks so much for watching. I would love to subscribe, guys. We're like 15 subscribers away from our next live giveaway. So I'd love for you to just smash that button. We're going to give away some of my cards and even some sealed products. So if you're into that, we'll love it. Guys, if any value was added to your life, please follow along. A box to go check out on the next step. Until then, full send.